Hi, welcome everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and we have LD, and you are watching us on Glenda's Dragon's Den. Glenda's Dragon's Den is part of the Conscious Awakening Network, and that streams live on Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and many other streaming platforms. So we'd like to just say thank you for following us, for being here with us week after week. And we did have the president of a wonderful place here right in the US, but he has had some um, technical difficulties. So we are now have Mark with us, who knows Dennis Stone, the president of the America's Stonehenge. And we have Barbara DeLong here with us, and they're going to talk about this wonderful place, what it represents, and about Dennis, since
And,
fortunately
uh,
Dennis couldn't be here.
yeah, and well, we can also cover Barbara's book
Oh,
before
Barbara's book.
Roswell.
Okay,
Or
don't hold the books up because the titles are backwards. Just tell us what the
Oh,
titles are.
what,
Yeah.
and then
well,
before Roswell, the
Mark,
secret history of UFOs.
Cool.
also what might be interesting is that my late husband and I did a documentary called Secrets of the Stones.
Nice.
And that's quite interesting about the stone chambers and walls that are all around New England.
Ooh. So,
Where's that documentary accessible, Barbara?
It's on, if you go to my website, barbaradelong.com, there is a link right there to the website. It plays right there. It's also
okay.
on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Secrets of the Stones, and it's on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay. And so
So,
what else is it? You could see it in YouTube, and you could see it on your website. And I'm going to put the website up now so people can look you up and really get all the story about it and all the information you and your late
so
husband came up. So what's
I'll call you
um
back.
what we want to talk about now, the America's Stonehenge.
Okay.
Um, you know, I've seen so many good pictures of it, and Dennis is such a wonderful person. Unfortunately, technology as it is, sometimes it wants to play, and sometimes it doesn't, right?
Right.
So, um, either
Barbara,
one,
why don't you tell us your connection to it?
right? Yes, that'd be great.
Well, when we did Secrets of the Stones,
Mhm.
one of the places that we did journey to and look into tremendously was American Stonehenge, because of course it's such a wonderful collection of chambers and stone edifices. And actually, when Dennis saw Secrets of the Stones, I believe there was a while that he was actually showing it in his visitor center.
Mm.
So there's a great deal to be said about it. It's got all sorts of stone. Uh, well, it has the chambers. It has the they call it the sacrificial table, and I think it was not for sacrifice personally. I think it was probably for either making wine or 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 putting a deer on it, and it drained off the blood and stuff like that. I don't
Right.
believe that the
There's no
whatever.
blood stains on it.
Well, Mark, it's thousands of years old. Give it a
So
break. I
wine,
mean,
there's wine on it. That's
So it's the sacramental table.
it.
well, yes, actually, you could call it a sacrament for sure.
There you go.
But the stones there are phenomenal, and the largest stone at America's Stonehenge is larger than the largest stone in the Great Pyramid.
Wow. Wow, that is fascinating.
So
And
how did they lift
They
stones
stood
like
on the
that in a?
bathroom scale, Mark, and they made them that way.
But how were they picked up and with that kind of weight, picked up, put on? Uh,
Obviously, we
Well,
had
you can gauge it with geometry as far as size and the kind of stone it is and the kind of material that stone weighs per whatever. Give me a break, Mark.
yeah, it's yeah, it's just it's just a fascinating um, topic to delve into.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
they're huge. They weigh tons. The largest stone there is heavier than a locomotive and the oil, yeah, and the coal car that would go behind it. It's just that the tonnage is just amazing.
Now, do these stones align as the ones in Britain's Stonehenge do at any time of the season?
They do. They have the astrological alignments at the seasonal time frames,
there's
and
about
their
Is it?
stone.
57 alignments.
Yeah,
mm,
it's an amazing place to visit. If anyone is in that particular area of the country, it's definitely worth going to because the different chambers that are there, the different stone circles, the different alignments that are there, it's really a very profound place to visit. Plus, he has llamas walking around, and I know they're doing a lot of lidar and ground penetrating radar and stuff like that going on there. And
Drone photography.
mhm.
mm.
What type of accommodations does he have for visitors?
uh, you mean
There's
what is the visitor center like, or what is the
Well,
site
does he have
itself?
a campsite? Is he affiliated with
no,
places for people to stay? Are you aware of any of that?
No, there's a
no,
big parking lot. No, it's a visitor center. You go in and you walk through the property, and since I've been there, they've expanded it tremendously. They've taken a lot of trees down, so a lot of the alignments are a lot more obvious than they had been before.
Mm.
And I think it's a fascinating stone uh, collection, and it's just so coincidental that his last name is Stone.
Well, that's coincidental. It didn't start out that way, I imagine. How did
Well,
it?
it
Sorry,
was it was originally what was it originally, Mark? I can't. It what
well, it was
was it
originally
called?
Native American, I believe.
Um,
it,
Mark,
it, it- you
I don't.
have evidence of like a weekend uh, campfire from a native uh, hunting
Cookout.
party. Uh,
Indigenous population, right?
yeah, from about it was dated radiocarbon dated to about 5,000 BC.
Mm.
The uh, chambers are dated to about 1800 BC. That is the mystery of the location. Um, there's evidence of uh, Western European megalithic builders,
Mm.
possibly being the ones who built the chambers. You have the ibex petroglyph that looks more like an African antelope. The antlers go back instead of
Outward.
like the rack on top of the head.
Mm.
It doesn't look like a white-tailed deer at all. I sent Glenda a photo of that. So uh,
It was originally called Mystery Hill.
Okay.
mhm. Yeah,
When
that's one of the mysteries.
when
Mm.
Yeah,
when Dennis's father bought the place, father or uncle, I can't remember which, but um, I think one of the interesting things is there's no real evidence of a long-term occupation. It's not like it was a village.
Right.
It was more as though it was a spot people traveled to. There's no water right there.
Mm.
Water is quite a distance away. So they would have to have portaged the water up to the site. Now, if you go back, thousands of years, there is it a river, I think, Mark, there?
A river, about, just say about 2000 BC, the Spigot River came up around the base of the hill.
Mm.
Yeah, but
So
that still
it
isn't that
now,
close.
yeah, now the river has shifted some distance away, but the you know hopefully we reschedule Dennis, but he can get into more detail about the how people may have used the water, the elevation, distant hills.
Mm.
It was touched on when Dennis appeared with Scott Walter on the inaugural season of America Unearthed.
Mm. Okay.
One of
And
one of the interesting things, though, is that none of these chambers show evidence of any sort of fire or smoke being in them, so they weren't used for habitation.
Right.
So that they were, and there was no way, at least presently, that you can close them off, so they weren't meant for food storage or anything like that. So
Mm.
as far as what they were for, it begs the question. There is around the sacrificial table, are chambers that kind of go beside and beneath it, so that there
Mm.
are talking tubes sort of that you can talk through.
Right.
But so that it must have been or could have been a ritualistic type thing. But there's really no knowing. And if it had been Irish monks, there would have been some sort of religious symbols somewhere, and there aren't any.
Right. Right.
So, and I know that's the chambers that my husband and I looked at. So they kept saying, well, it was the Irish monks that built them because they used corbelled construction, but you don't see the corbelled construction at American Stonehenge as much as you see it in the ones that are down in New York State and lower and more to the west.
Mm.
so,
Okay.
Barbara, did you find uh, similar, just say some of the evidence of burning in some of the chambers that you document in
N-
Secrets of the Stones, or did was could they have been used for something identifiable, some kind of
No, that's what, excuse me, that's what really confused us tremendously because people used to say they were storage for food or whatever, and there's no cross ventilation. If you had put food in there and sealed it up, it would have spoiled immediately.
Mm.
There was no soot, there was no smoke, there were no windows, there was just the door opening, and that was it. And they looked to carbon date it. The only place they found carbon dating was in a campfire, but they weren't really sure when the campfire happened. The interesting thing about the chambers in New England is that some of them have a magnetic anomaly in their doorway, so
Mm.
that as you go in, your compass goes crazy.
Wow.
And but they weren't to be lived in. They also weren't burial places either. So it begs the issue. I don't know what they were used for. I sort of they're made mostly of granite. Granite has a great deal of crystal in it, of quartz in it.
Mm.
Could have been used for telecommunication of some sort at some point in time.
Could they been used for some type of portal by more
It
advanced
it's
civilizations?
it absolutely, that's another possibility of what they were used for.
Mm.
The interesting thing is, there used to be about 800 of them in the New England area. Now they're down to 200
Oh.
because they're slowly being destroyed because people are making patios of the stones, and and they're being destroyed because of roads being widened. And you kind of look at them and you think there's some sort of magic here, because when you walk into them, it's almost as though you're walking into a crop circle. There is the smell of slight smell of ozone,
Right.
and no bugs,
Hmm.
no bugs at all.
Mm.
And it's almost like with Get Smart, he had the cone of silence that
Right.
dropped over him. That's what these chambers are like. Everything is muffled on the outside,
Huh.
even those that are built right at the edge of streets. As cars go by, you very rarely hear them.
What about radon? Is there any radon in them?
Not that we've been able to detect.
Okay.
Wow.
Detect.
Well, that's good.
And Barbara, you also cover some of the walls across New England.
Hmm.
And Dennis has a few of the serpentine walls across his property. There might be some of the bends in them, like the serpent mound that okay, like this one bend is aligned to the su- summer solstice, sunrise. The next one is for the winter solstice, and there's like a pattern to the um, bends in the snake-like uh,
Hmm.
structure of the wall. It, what when you went to some of these other walls throughout New England, what were some of the patterns you noticed?
Well, I think I think what was fascinating was that we would follow a wall and we would find it enclosed nothing, or it was totally enclosed so that there was no way to drive stock in or out of it. There were zigzag walls, and there were serpent walls too. It really is a fascinating thing we followed a lot of these walls into the woods. We never arrived anywhere on time because we always saw a wall that we had to get out of the car and follow. And they were amazing because one of the fascinating things about them is you see them and they are about 3, maybe 4 feet high. But the reality is, if you dig down, you'll find that they're 6 to 8 feet tall.
Wow. Hmm.
And a lot of people say, well, the farmers built them when they were clearing fields, but the reality is they're enclosed. There's no You'd have to lift the animals in and out. You couldn't drive them in and out through an opening.
Hmm.
So and I think Patrick figured out how long it would take a farmer to actually build. Yeah, the amount of walls that were here in New England. I think in 1839 they the agricultural department of the U.S. did a study of the walls in New England, and found that they were long enough to reach to the moon and back.
Wow. Wow.
Well, is it possible, considering that there's a good 4 feet of the walls buried, that in that buried portion there's an opening to drive animals in and out?
Uh, Probably, but you'd have to dig up an awful lot of walls to find them. I mean,
Right, but at that time,
I,
if that was their purpose, then that could answer that question. Glenda,
Hmm.
can you
in
go ahead?
it, in part that is accurate, but uh, these walls, they weren't just some rocks. They were like this wide. They were like sometimes 4 and 5 feet wide.
Wow.
They're huge walls.
Right, but if you have an animal that can jump, that's one way to dissuade it. So, to try and speculate, you can't look at it in a 20th century mindset. Um, as to how it was built, we are very comfortable with the understanding that a lot of the architecture that remains to this day could have been constructed with the help of technology that was not of this planet at that time.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Well, I think when the colonists arrived here, the governor of Connecticut, I think, I believe it was Connecticut, colonists were writing to him and saying who built these walls, and because they were here when the colonists arrived, and the Native Americans didn't build walls, they didn't claim territory or mark territory, and those that were questioned said they were here when we came. So
Mm.
there you go.
Yeah.
So,
So a lot of the stuff that people don't understand that, they think it was just the colonists or the Native Americans, the native indigenous people that were here. Civilization has gotten help from galactics for many, many, many moons. And every single time I believe from what I have read and seen and channeled and all that, every single time humanity is in trouble, they kind of come and help. So, and I do believe all that.
Sure hope they're
Well-
knocking on the door now.
yeah, Glenda just made a great segue into how aliens can be helpful,
Yeah.
which dovetails into your and Ken God's Words Before Roswell books. Can you explain a little bit about how you and Ken got connected and where the idea for your book came from?
Well, Ken and I met through you. You're the one that introduced us. And he was writing a book on Before Roswell, the UFO sightings, and he discovered my website. And my late husband, Patrick Hook, was a biblical scholar, and he had the Bible UFO Connection website, which was the first and the largest one that was on the internet for many, many years. And he had put together the material on UFOs, and it's still up there. It's a huge, huge list of sightings throughout time, going way back to 14,000, 20,000, 270,000 years ago. I can't remember how far back, but it really goes back far. And he stopped at 2000. And when he passed away, I had to take his website down. And so whatever was not in any of the books that he had written, I put onto my website. And it was the UFO section and the section on giants.
Oh.
So that material is still available to anybody that wants it. And Ken apparently discovered my website and called and asked if I would mind if he used the material. And I said, of course not. Go ahead. Do whatever, publicize it. And he called me back and he said, well, you want to write it with me? And I thought, most of it's written. This cannot be hard. So I said, sure. And he had a lot of it divided into different sections, and he wrote a short blurb with each one, and I added to it, and he wrote the synopsis of the book, and I wrote the conclusion. And it's a fascinating book. I've read it a number of times, and every time I read it, I come across new material that is really fascinating. And the reason that we started at Roswell is because after Roswell, conspiracies started to figure in here, fear started to figure in here, and prior to that, most of the sightings were very simple and calm and quiet. A farmer's plowing his fields and he sees these things in the air and he wanders into town before he has a couple of beers and talks to the sheriff, and then he goes and has his beers and back to plowing his field. I mean, there's no horror, there's no fear, there's no secrecy connected to any of the stuff prior to Roswell. After Roswell, there was, it became a political thing, and the sightings before that, going way back in time, were really quite calm. They weren't fearful. They were, That's weird. I wonder what that is type stuff.
And where can one find your book, Barbara?
Before Roswell is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's also available on my website. I have a section that is called I highly recommend, and there's a section for all the books that I recommend that are there, and so it's there as well.
Okay.
Good. So people can find it there. And you said you wrote the conclusion. What did you conclude?
Well, among other things, that if they were here to destroy us, they're very slow workers. Um, they they've had a lot of time
Right.
to actually destroy and terraform the planet. And I think that a lot of times that people are saying, well, why aren't they contacting us? I think that they are contacting us through awareness, through consciousness.
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to land on the White House lawn. I don't think they're going to. I mean, people talk about them working for one government or another, and I don't believe that they're doing that. I truly don't. I believe that wise individuals have come into our culture when we needed time and wisdom and insight and help. But I do believe that there is, like in Star Trek, a non-intervention contract out there.
Well,
I think they're waiting for us to grow up.
Yeah.
Was my conclusion.
well, I think in any society, empowerment overrides enablement. So, it's one thing to empower culture, it's another thing to enable them. How do you feel about Joseph Campbell and his work? Are you familiar with that?
And vaguely, I think my feeling is that if as a group, these people, these cultures, these species now, and remember, we all come from the same source,
Right.
no matter what planet, whatever. We all come from the same place.
Mhm.
Um, if they did descend upon us, um, we would eventually create a religion around them and worship them,
Mm.
and that's not appropriate.
Right.
And so I think that there is a great deal of education and wisdom and growth and security that humanity has to develop before we can really even think to communicate with these people. I mean, Eisenhower supposedly has a contract with them, and when you stop and think about it, how stupid is that? I mean, we made contracts with the Native Americans and broke the contracts immediately, and if an alien race was going to make a contract with us, it wouldn't be worth the paper it was written on. It's silly. So until we're at a place where communication can be on a spiritual level, um, I don't think it will work, and I don't think that they will interact with us. I mean, we can channel them, we can channel information from them, we can get wisdom from them that way,
Mhm.
but they're not going to knock on your door yet. I don't think.
Okay.
Of course, Billy Meyer would have another, a lot to say about that because he's been dealing with them for centuries,
Mm.
not centuries, decades, for sure, decades.
Centuries now.
Could be.
We support the concept of past lives, so who knows?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So
It-
they do contact people though, and not just in channel.
It intuitively,
Yeah.
sure.
And there has been some people who have been able to actually see them and in awoken times, like daytimes, and they actually see them and speak to them. Not every I can't say every species or every type or anything, but there have been people who have actually walking, and there it is. There they are.
Well, in my
Uh-huh.
opinion, and it's only my
Right.
opinion, I believe they're seeing holograms.
Okay. Mhm.
Well, if they're seeing holograms, the holograms are being generated for the purpose of communication. Can we agree on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. What about the concept of different frequencies and the concept of quantum physics having different planes of existence based on frequency. How do you feel about
Oh,
that?
no, I totally agree. I think there are probably lots of cultures that are existing right next to us right now.
Mhm.
And very often people will see shadow figures and things like that, and they're seeing a fold in time. They're seeing an overlap of dimensions or worlds, so that yeah, definitely I would agree with that. And I would say that we are not of a frequency that can really communicate with other cultures that come from other stars or dimensions, or through wormholes,
Right.
um, because we haven't our frequency as a human being is not high enough to be able to really communicate with them. Can we get there? Sure. Um, my goodness, if you use even solfeggio music, that helps to raise the
Mhm.
frequency. There's lots of ways to raise your frequency, but it's a matter of working with the elements of being, it's like developing a muscle. If you want to go to that frequency, you can go to that frequency, but you have to make sure that you solidify the path to it, and you have to work on it to be able to hold on to it long enough to be able to interact with whatever or whoever is there.
And you have to ensure that you can find your way back when you're ready, or you might wind up like Edgar Gacy. Uh,
Yeah.
but how about Reiki? Are you familiar with Reiki and the concept of channeling that healing facilitation? Uh,
Yeah, I'm a Reiki master.
Okay.
well, that's something you share
Definitely.
with Glenda.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I have been for quite a while, and also an ordained minister, so
That's
that
another thing you share with Glenda.
I can marry and bury.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I keep saying.
And she keeps threatening me with both. But yeah, so you practice Usui, or do you practice other modalities as well?
Um, Actually, it's been such a long time now that I sort of have evolved into whatever works for me and I'm most comfortable with. So
Right.
I wouldn't say I relate to any particular one modality. It's sort of like what feels right to me is what I utilize.
Right. Yes, I'm the same way. I started taking classes and all that when they didn't give you books, they didn't give you anything. It was back in the early 1980s where you sat in this place and people from Japan came over, did their thing. You came back later, 21 days later, they did it
Uh-huh.
again. And I started back then, and now I have studied other modalities because I like the ability to do different frequencies at
Hmm.
will, which is really interesting. Um, so how you know how did you get to your this interest in all this stuff? Because everybody has a different way of getting there. Um,
Well, I've always been intuitive,
mhm.
and I guess the turning point was when a UFO landed on my campus and I saw it.
Okay.
Um, it kind of I took a look as it it landed and the police came running, and when they turned on the stadium lights, it rose up and it swooped over my dorm. And I tell people that I mean, time sort of stood still. I don't know how long it was. It felt like it went very slow, but I'm pretty sure it went pretty fast. But it was close enough to me. I would say it was probably within 300 feet as it swooped over my dorm, and if it had had a VIN number, I could have read it.
Yeah,
And it
I think they hail in different ways. Uh,
probably.
but time is a man-made construct, and
Mhm.
so time could have been whatever it was, and as you were pulled into that experience, you might have actually jumped into a different frequency to be able to see it. And
Could have been because the girls' dorm was locked, so we were just all crowded around windows watching. and a lot of them were screaming, a lot of them hid in closets, can't figure out why, but, they were terrified and they were crying, and, um, I just looked at it and I thought, "Oh, this is so cool. I wanna ride that thing," and the girl standing right next to me did not see it.
Wow, there you go.
So it's sort of like with Close Encounters of a Third Kind. I think you had to be of a level of awareness or consciousness
Mhm.
to be comfortable with seeing it. And it's sort of like at the end of Close Encounters, they shove him onto the spaceship with the aliens, and others are saying, "But he hasn't had the training and whatever." And the comment was, "Yes, but he was invited." So I felt invited.
Nice.
Well, that's no doubt your intuitive ability as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Because once you're intuitive, your monkey mind, as Glenda likes to put it, kind of gets out of the way, and you just allow it to happen.
oh yeah, absolutely. And since then, it's just I have trusted that things were going to fall into place as they did, and life went on. I got married, I had a child, I got divorced, I got married, I got divorced, I got married, he died, and so
You met me.
and you're still here.
Don't get too close, though. Mark, just keep your distance.
No, we've been together for what, 5 years?
But we've known each other for what, eight, about
8 or 10,
nine
yeah.
9 years or so.
So we've worked together for a long time.
Nice. Nice.
And if some of these questions and Barbara's answers seem like they could have been spoken by another guest, um, you know, our we have a mutual friend, the Reverend Michael Carter, who was
Yeah.
just on with Glenda a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
For the
Mhm.
second time.
Second time.
Yep. So he he's left his influence with us
Oh yeah. Well,
numerous times
when
over the years.
when he wrote his first book, I contacted him because I wanted to have him on my show to interview him,
Mhm.
and he said, "Do you know anything about the Bible?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit. I'm okay with that." And he said, "Well, how about UFOs in the Bible?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." At this time, I'm married to Patrick Cook, who's the authority.
Right.
Um, in the front of of Michael's book, he thanks Patrick Cook for presenting all of the material and everything, and he said to me, "I really should maybe give you some background and an outline for some of this material." And I said, "Michael, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think I'm okay." And he said, "I really think you want to have a good foundation." And I said, "Michael, my husband is Patrick Cook." And he said, "Never mind."
There's nothing like that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
So, Barbara, what do you want to accomplish going forward?
Well, um, this year I published 3 books so far.
And what are the
I
other
did,
two? We have the one, right?
Yeah.
Before
yeah,
Roswell,
yeah, and then I published Whispers of Spiritual Wisdom, which is a poetry book with philosophical blurbs.
Right.
And I just it actually is getting launched. The next book is getting launched on Friday. It's called well, 30 years ago I painted a deck of cards called the Cosmic Deck of Initiation. They were hand painted mandalas.
Mm.
Totally not tarot. I invented the whole system myself. It was a deck of cards, is a deck of cards that is a spiritual trip through the evolution of the human spirit.
Mm.
And they stopped publishing them, and Ken Gosward offered to republish them and asked me to write the handbook that goes with them. And so while he was republishing the cards, I I wrote the almost 400-page book, How to Use the Cosmic Deck of Initiation.
Okay.
And that's just now hit Amazon. And the cards and the book will be launched on Friday.
Mm.
And it's an amazing journey of spiritual enlightenment. And it really, the bottom line is it tells people how to go within themselves to find the answers that they need rather than looking to someone else or for someone else, that they are a master in themselves, and that all of the answers are there, and that when they were created, when their body was created to become the avatar for the spirit, the moment that life started and spirit entered the body, it brought with it its spiritual DNA that had the roadmap for this lifetime and the Akashic records for lifetimes past.
Mhm.
So that all that material is inside, and all you need to do is be able to look for it, and it's there. So that's getting published and is out there. And after that is going to be a book called 101 Spiritual Questions.
Nice.
And then there are a couple of other books online too.
Okay, well, we have your author's page there for Amazon, so they'll be able to pick up all the books there. And as you publish them, if they subscribe to your page, then they get notified as soon as you put something up.
Your
So,
website.
Absolutely.
no, the
Yeah.
Amazon.
Oh, the
Like,
Amazon
yeah,
authors page.
yes,
Okay.
Amazon.
Well, do you
Okay, there.
have a way
there-
to on your .com? Do you have a way to subscribe to any notifications there as well?
Yeah, and the book and the deck of cards actually have their own website.
Oh.
It's on my website. But if they want to look at it, its address is cosmicdeckofinitiation.com. And people can get the cards and the book there. And there's a seekers forum that's there too. And as of next week or the week after, I'm going to start doing readings on Nightlight on Fridays to sort of help to stimulate the interest in the deck of cards in the handbook.
That sounds wonderful. Now, where does it stream?
It'll stream. Well, it streams on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
It streams on YouTube,
Okay.
and it streams on about 30 other
servers.
what's the word I'm looking for? Thank you. Servers, 30 other servers, TalkStream Live and iHeartRadio and
Nice.
all of those.
And there's the deck of cards
Right.
link right there.
hmm
So let's say YouTube, which most of our viewers know. What channel on YouTube?
It's Barbara DeLong.
Okay, well that should be
And
fairly.
that's where Mark is too. That's where his shows are too. He has a show on Nightlight as well.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Good. Good. Now, is there any particular place that you have made your travels that you seem to connect more with?
Oof. Well, I would say there's obviously an Egyptian connection, but what I am most intrigued with actually is Göbekli Tepe. I've not been there, but Göbekli Tepe is a place that I think people haven't really researched enough. You're familiar with it?
A little bit, not a lot.
Okay. On the stone pillars, they have engravings of, and it's supposed to be, they've dated it, they think, to at least 12,000 years old. And on the pillars are all sorts of carvings of animals, and a great many of them are not indigenous to Turkey at all, never have been. But Göbekli Tepe is in the same area as Mount Ararat, where Noah's Ark theoretically landed and all of the animals were set free. It's also in the same area that people have decided that the Garden of Eden was, which as well had all the animals walking around. So And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I am saying that it's a site that was intentionally buried thousands of years ago for some reason.
Hmm.
So it probably has a message of culture and growth and understanding and spiritual awareness in it that we haven't yet figured out.
And what's keeping you from making that trip?
Money.
Well, everybody buy the card so Barbara can get there. I think she's earned it.
Yes.
It will take a lot of cards.
Well, there's a lot of people,
There's
you
a lot
know.
of people. And these are different types of cards, so you know.
They actually are. They're all hand painted mandalas. They were all channeled. And what was fascinating was 31 or 2 years ago when I did them, they were very easy to channel and to paint. You know, I mean, it took me 9 months from the first drawing to US Games publishing them.
Okay.
And Stuart Kaplan had said, you know, well, are you going to write a handbook? Because it had a little white book.
Right.
And I said, sure. And I wrote one and I gave it to him and he gave it back and said, write it again. And I looked at him and I said, I don't think so. So 30 years later,
Mhm.
I was able to sit down and really put heavy duty spiritual stuff in the handbook. The handbook is over 300 pages.
That's
So it goes into all sorts of different concepts and theories. And what I did was there are 52 cards and I put there are several different spreads, but one is a pyramid spread and it's a 6-card spread.
mm,
And I interpreted every card in the deck in every place in that particular layout
wow.
so that you know people could see how the information came through, use it or not, whatever. But it also goes into a lot of the solfeggio stuff. I give them information on that, on the chakras, on the different levels of energetics that extend from the body. There's a tremendous amount of information in there.
Would it be fair to say that it's more catalytic than an actual owner's manual for the cards? That it's meant to stimulate the person using the cards as opposed to give them specific directives?
Well, you can use it for precognition.
Right.
You can prognostication. It can be used for that absolutely. But the reality here is that I say that it's a spiritual floor plan masquerading as a deck of cards.
Okay. That's very interesting.
I mean, the person that wrote the back of the book has been using the cards for at least the last 20 years. So, and he was very gracious to actually, you know, give me a blurb for the back of the book because, you know, I actually didn't know what to put on the back.
Well, I have to thank you because I know someone whose birthday is coming up who's probably going to wind up with a deck of cards.
The deck of cards are beautiful. They're hexagon in
Ooh.
shape.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
they're really cool. Do I have a deck of cards? I don't. Um, it's a beautiful deck. It really is.
It must be if you channeled them and hand painted them.
Right.
And
that's-
found the cause to republish them. So, you know, as people are acknowledging their spiritual paths more these days and awakening and ascending to a greater place of spiritual awareness, it's wonderful that these are still, if not more so, applicable than they were 30 years ago.
Well, 30 years ago, I wasn't deep enough into spirituality
Mhm.
to actually have given them information that would be of help to them. Um, and what I loved about writing it, and every now and then I'd sit back and I'd say, "Oh, that's really fascinating," you know. You know, you get carried away sometimes, and so it was an adventure for me, and I just wasn't old enough spiritually to have written the handbook.
Mm.
So it was an exciting time that I know people kept saying, well, we can't find the deck anymore, and there's only one deck on on Amazon that I could find, and it was $400 and some dollars. And it was like, whoa, it must be time for another deck. But if you look at the old deck, which is a circular deck, and then you look at the book and the cards now, it's a second coming. They're born again.
But the images are fairly consistent between the two. Is that fair to say?
They're exact.
Okay.
They're exact. They're just in a different shape.
Yeah, but that shape brings a lot of more, to me, would bring a lot more energy.
Oh, it does, and it was interesting because when I spoke with the publishers, wanted to make sure I wasn't still under contract to U.S. Games, and I'm not. But they returned to me the original paintings,
Wow.
so
Good.
I have the originals back, which is really very exciting.
Yeah, it is. That's got to be something really precious to you.
Yeah, but what the hell do you do with 52 paintings? I mean, really?
Well, if you don't know what to do with them, auction them off and go to Turkey.
There you go.
I mean, wait for the cards to get a little traction, but
there you go.
You never know. I just I rebirthed them again because it really was time.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that it's a bestseller. It just means that I put out what I was supposed to put out there, and whether or not the world is ready for it is a whole nother ball of wax. But it's out there,
Mhm.
so I can croak any day now, and my work here is done.
Well, my experience is the world is always ready, but it's not always aware that it's ready. Anything that's going to forward the spiritual understanding and practice without
Mhm.
it becoming dogma or something that's intentionally giving power to something that's not spiritual. We need more of that.
Well, that's why I like the deck, because it's basically saying, you are perfect.
Mhm.
You are part of the infinite.
Mhm.
You don't need to pray to anything other than recognize what's in yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what the cards try to tell you to do.
Mm. Yep.
So how do you build a cathedral with that, Barbara?
I tell you, it's been an interesting journey, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to do it. I do have other stuff I want to write, and so I'll get that out there as well.
Well, then let's
And
not have any more talk about croaking any day now. Let's get that stuff out.
I'm 79. Come on, I'm not past expiration, but I'm getting up there.
Well,
But
in my book, you live to 120, so you're only 2/3 of the way there.
well, that's true. That's very true.
It's all how you look at it, Barbara. And you know as well as I do, if this is your mission, then you'll have a way to complete it.
Oh, yeah. No, I know there's a lot of stuff yet to do.
Right.
And every now and then somebody will say, you don't seem to be doing much. What are you waiting? What are you doing? And I keep saying, I'm waiting. I have learned that you wait for the call. You don't make it.
Mhm.
And when the call comes, you jump on and you're just taken along with the current. Oftentimes, if you try to make the call yourself, you're paddling upstream.
Well, to
Mhm.
me, that's the litmus test of someone who's truly connected spiritually. Because if you presume you make the call, then you're presuming you have the omniscience that you're not supposed to have in this life necessarily. But yeah, everything is timing.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, it's I don't if somebody starts to collect when I used to do readings on Nightlight, I used to do them at the very beginning, Monday and Wednesday evenings, and my intent was to do free readings for people who couldn't afford to go to a psychic or go to a psychic fair or whatever.
Mhm.
And after longer than I care to admit, I realized that um, I had created an amazing number of codependent people who followed me everywhere and asked the same question every time.
And so you
So,
resolve that.
Well, I did it slowly. I finally got to the point where I said, I'll read you, but I will give you what Spirit gives me, and it may not be what you're asking for, but it's what I'm going to give you. And then I even went further and I did what I called a rapid fire reading, and I gave them in about 5 minutes an entire year
Mhm.
as to what to expect energetically. And I said at the end, I will happily answer a question about anything I have said, but don't try to sneak in with something I didn't mention.
Right.
And they always did. But so my co-host from that time frame and I are going to start doing free readings again, and we'll see we'll see if anybody comes for free readings.
I'm sure there will be.
Well, we have a few minutes left. Is there anything? I'll give it to you first, Barbara, since we've been talking with you the most, that you want to close with that we haven't touched on.
Oh, tons of stuff. But I am so appreciative that I got to talk about both books, and I want to thank you for squeezing me in, and Mark for finding me and squeezing me in as well.
Well, we want to thank you for
You're
allowing yourself to be squeezed.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you?
I'm really busy, but I am working on developing some great shows for over the summer. Have follow-up true crime story coming up, or a true crime author coming up. In a couple weeks, he will be discussing another aspect of Elliot Ness's career other than The Untouchables. He has some other prehistory shows lined up on Nightlight over the summer. So it's so I'm doing things like that to just try to keep up with the readings to make sure the listeners get a uh, rewarding experience.
And what is your show on Nightlight?
Nightlight
Yeah,
2.
Nightlight Part 2. I just go under the umbrella term.
Okay.
Great.
That's great.
Well,
No,
so now people know how to find you as well. I want to thank you both.
Yes.
It's always interesting doing live shows, and I'm really grateful that you were both available and willing to give us so much of yourselves this evening at literally no notice.
Yes.
Honey,
sorry
you want
about
to take
that.
us home?
Well, I want to say thank you to both of you. Please hold on for a second as we say goodbye to our audience. Thank you for being here week after week, and keep those emails coming. Let us know what you think. If there's anybody in particular you're looking for, any subject in particular, and as always, many blessings. We all love you, and we'll see you next week.
All you need is love.
Bye.